With me, with us tonight are two senior staff members of the Clean Power Alliance who are here to present to you information concerning the new Clean Power Alliance program, and also, in addition to that, some very specific information on for solar customers, because we understand there have been a lot of solar customers, a lot of questions revolving around the NEM program and so on. I really appreciate you coming tonight. You should know that this is being televised through the city of Camarillo. It's also being live streamed. With me tonight is City Council Member Sean Mulchay, who's here. My name is Tony Tremblay. I'm the Vice Mayor of the city. I'm the Council's designated representative on the Clean Power Alliance Board of Directors. So I'm really pleased that you're all here. With me tonight are Matt Langer, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Clean Power Alliance, and Karen Schmidt, who is the Regional Affairs Manager for Ventura County. And with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Matt. By the way, we intend that I'll leave it up to Matt and to Karen on how they want to proceed, but we intend that, and we hope that you brought an awful lot of questions for them, and I'll let them decide how they want to proceed from an interactive basis, and we'll go from there. I know that there's a PowerPoint presentation for you. All right, thank you.
You want to hand that one to Karen?
Okay, great. Karen?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thanks for having me to Camarillo. I'm excited to talk about net metering and other matters related to Clean Power Alliance. Let me ask a couple questions just so I kind of have a sense of the audience. Who's heard of Clean Power Alliance before tonight? Okay, that's good news. Who's a solar customer who has net metering? A lot of folks. Who's thinking about maybe getting solar at some point? Great. Who doesn't know why they're here and walked into the wrong meeting? Okay. Good, none of those. That's good. That makes it easier. All right, well, thanks for having me. Appreciate Vice Mayor Tremblay introducing me tonight. I'm Matt Langer, Chief Operating Officer of Clean Power Alliance, and we're your new local energy provider. So what we're here to do is to offer clean energy controlled by your local government and delivered to your door. So I'll talk a little bit about more how that works, and we'll make sure to get plenty into net metering because I know that's why a lot of the folks here are here, but I do want to cover some of the basics just so that everyone kind of has the same basic amount of information. All right, so Clean Power Alliance is a joint powers authority, so that means we're a government agency made up of government agencies. So we have 32 member jurisdictions around Southern California, so that's the Los Angeles County, Ventura County, and then 29 cities in those two counties, including Camarillo. So those are our members. Those are sort of like our owners if you thought of us like a business. But again, we're a government agency, and our board is made up of a representative from each member jurisdiction. So we have Vice Mayor Tremblay is our board member from Camarillo, and we have one from every other jurisdiction. So we meet in public meetings once a month. We also have committee meetings that are open to the public. We're subject to the Brown Act, just like your city council. So there's opportunities if anyone wants to see our board agendas, the materials, the decisions we're making. That's all available on our website. I have that at the end of the presentation here. So definitely an opportunity to be engaged in what's going on if that's something you're interested in doing. And we do have out in Ventura County here remote locations for all of our board meetings. So you don't have to come to downtown Los Angeles for those board meetings. There's a regional location where you can come attend. So just want to make sure everybody knows about that. That's a big part of who we are, is that local government involvement. And so we now serve about 1 million customers across those two counties and 29 cities. And that represents about 3 million residents. So pretty large organization that we've put together, and we're bringing a lot of green energy onto the grid. I'll talk about that more. So how does it work? So Clean Power Alliance purchases its own electricity. So all of our buying power together for the residents of all those 32 member jurisdictions for buying electricity. Then we deliver that electricity over the existing Southern California Edison infrastructure. So you're not going to see anybody coming around and putting up new poles and wires. You're not going to get disconnected from their grid and get put onto our grid. It's the same infrastructure. We're just providing different sources of electricity. And then for you, at kind of the point of purchase, you get your energy, you get the same bill you used to get from Southern California Edison. You still can call them if you have service issues, a power outage, whatnot. And then the final page, if you're a residential customer, final page of your bill will be the Clean Power Alliance portion of the bill. In fact, most folks, maybe not all, but at least many folks probably already got their first Clean Power Alliance bill if you're a Camarillo resident. We enrolled customers in February. I'll talk a little bit more about the enrollment schedule, but a lot of folks probably already saw that bill. If you look at it carefully, you'll see on that last page it says charges for the electricity delivered to you. That's Clean Power Alliance and our names on there and our rates and our different offerings. So I mentioned the launch. So we actually started service in February of 2018 to LA County unincorporated municipal accounts. So that was about 3,000 accounts to get us off the ground about a year ago. Then in June and July of last year, we enrolled non-residential customers in Rolling Hills Estates, South Pasadena, and Los Angeles County unincorporated areas. So that was about 30,000 more customers. So that's who we served up through the end of last year. And then we were really ramping up, getting the procurement in place, buying the energy, getting ready for our big residential enrollment, which was last month. So that was 900,000 residential customers across Southern California. It's actually now makes us the biggest community choice energy entity in the state. So pretty exciting. I'd say for the most part that enrollment went smoothly and seamlessly for most folks. Definitely, I think a lot of questions about net metering, and so that's part of the reason I'm here today, even though the launch has already happened, is to talk more about that. Coming up, we have our next big enrollment in May, and that'll be the non-residential customers from the remaining 29 jurisdictions that haven't had their commercial enrollment yet. So one of the big things about Clean Power Alliance is that we offer choices. So when you think about your choices with Clean Power Alliance, there's kind of a couple tiers of the way you might think of it. So the first choice you have is if you want to stay with Clean Power Alliance or if you want to go back to Southern California Edison. That's always a choice. It's not just a choice during enrollment. You have a choice to leave at any time you'd like. If you've left, you have an opportunity at a later point to come back. So that's the first question. And part of why I'm here today is to tell you about the value proposition and who we are so that hopefully you'll be excited to stay with us. And if you do, you have three choices for the power content that we'll deliver to you. And so those are listed here. I'll take half a step back. Each jurisdiction gets to choose its own default of these three options that you can see on the screen. So the three choices are lean power, which is about 36% renewable energy, which is just slightly more renewable energy than what Edison offers in its power content. That comes at a discount of about 1% compared to what Edison charges. We also have our clean power offering, which is 50% renewable energy, so that's more renewables than what Edison offers, and that's at the same price as what Edison charges for their basic service. And then we have our 100% green offering. And that's 100% renewable energy, and that's at 6 to 8% more than the basic offering that Southern California Edison has. So in Camarillo, the default choice that the council selected is our lean power option. So everyone, if they did nothing last month, they got a small discount, 1% discount on their bill in February compared to if they had stayed with Southern California Edison, and a little bit more renewable energy. So from there, you can decide at any time, there's no restrictions once you're with us of you can opt up, you can go to a different option once you've opted up. If you decide it's not for you, you can opt back down. And then, like I said, you have options later if you'd like to opt out. So we often get a question about what does all this mean? Like people are making these choices, but what about the renewable energy that you're saying you're going to provide for me? And so what we're doing is we actually keep track of every single person's choice, And then we sum up all the renewable energy needs and all the other energy needs that our customers have, and that's what we go out and buy. So when you make a choice, that's a signal to our folks who actually go out and buy renewable energy to buy more or to buy less. And that's how we do our business. So that's a kind of an important thing to understand. California has some pretty rigorous processes for documenting renewable energy procurement. So we can't just buy coal energy and call it green. There's a verification process for a number of different state agencies to make sure that what we say is renewable energy counts according to state law as renewable energy. And that's an important piece of this. And again, those choices that individuals are making are rolling up into our overall procurement strategy to make sure that we're living up to those commitments of what we said we would provide in our renewable energy offerings. So one of the things we like to talk about, it's the last bullet on the slide here, but there's a 2030 goal for 50% renewable energy in California. We're going to be meeting that already in 2019. We're already above that. So pretty good progress against those goals right out of the gate. It's our first full year of operation, already putting a lot of renewable energy onto the grid. That's something that we think is an important part of the value proposition, important thing that people are pretty excited about. All right, so we have a website. You can all check it out. It's cleanpoweralliance.org. And one of the things that you can do on there is you can actually make these choices that I was talking about. So you take your account number from your Edison bill, which you can get online or if you get it in the mail. You put that in there along with your name, and then you can go and you can adjust your options or you can opt out right there on the web portal. It's very simple, just a couple of steps. We also have a customer service center that's in Irwindale, and you can call them up and they'll help you out. And they can help you with the same choices, answer questions, anything you'd like to do with the service that I've already talked about. You can do that either on the web or at the call center. Another thing I always like to cover is some of the special programs that Southern California Edison offers, and a lot of folks are on those. There's 3 that we mention. CARE and FARA are 2 income qualified programs that a lot of folks are on. And then the other one is medical baseline. So that's a program that's available for people who have certain medical equipment in their home, and they can get basically a special allocation of energy usage at a discounted rate so that they can keep that medical equipment running at an affordable rate. So if you're on one of those programs, then your eligibility does not change whatsoever by joining Clean Power Alliance. Those discounts that you're eligible for continue on. You have to take no action. You continue to be on that. It's no problem. One thing we've done that's a little different in our 100% default cities, so there's several in Ventura County who've chosen to make the default choice 100% green energy, and that comes, as I mentioned, at a premium compared to the basic Edison rate. And so what we've done in those communities is we said, we're going to go ahead and provide the 100% renewable energy at the same price that folks would have paid if they had stayed with Southern California Edison. Because what we don't want to do is have those default choices that we're making for people, particularly people who are most vulnerable. We don't want to have those customers negatively impacted in terms of cost. So they're going to be getting the benefit of green energy without the additional cost if they're on one of these 3 special programs. All right, so one other thing I'll mention on the website is that we have a bill comparison tool. That's pretty helpful if you're thinking about, should I stay with Clean Power Alliance? Should I opt out and return to Southern California Edison? So you can go in there, you can put in your usage from a recent bill, you can make up some theoretical usage, you can play with the tool, but basically it'll tell you, depending on which option you choose with Clean Power Alliance versus what you would have had with Southern California Edison, what's the difference in my bill? So that's another useful resource we have on the website. And I'll just say, there's a ton of information on the website. We try to keep some of this basic stuff really easy to access, but if you want to go down the rabbit hole, there's quite a lot of information available on the website. All right, so who's ready to talk about net metering? Okay, I got like 2 hands up. I was thinking I was going to get cheers and like a lot of excitement. Net metering, yes. All right, so Clean Power Alliance offers net metering. And I'll just give like a really basic introduction for folks who aren't familiar about what net metering is. I bet we have some folks here who are super users or really knowledgeable, but just to level set, I'll offer a really basic explanation. I'll talk about our program, and then I'll highlight some of the differences between our program and Southern California Edison's program, because there aren't that many, but there are a handful of differences, and they are important to folks. So essentially, by and large, net metering is for solar rooftop customers. Net metering is also available to people who have small wind turbines. I'm assuming there aren't any people in this room who have a wind turbine on their house, but if they do, I won't talk about it, although the same rules apply. So basically what net metering does is if you have generation at your home, solar generation, those solar panels, what happens electrically is first they're serving the power on your site and at your house. And then any excess electricity that you don't use at your home goes out onto the electric grid. And you get credit for that. And you get credit at the retail rate. So that's the basic concept for net metering. And then it gets like really complicated really fast after that because there's a bunch of rules. But that's the fundamental concept behind net metering. So if you're joining Clean Power Alliance, or if you've already been with Clean Power Alliance and you're thinking about adding solar, because I know we have some folks in the room that are thinking about that, if you're already with if you're transitioning to Clean Power Alliance, you already have net metering, you don't have to do anything. You'll automatically be enrolled in our net metering program, and you'll just be on the program as we offer it. Alternatively, if you're adding net metering later, all you'll do is you'll go through Edison's normal interconnection process and kind of vetting process, sign-up process for net metering. And then as soon as you become a net metering customer with Edison, you don't have to do any additional paperwork. You'll become a net metering customer with Clean Power Alliance as well. So we try to make it really simple. You basically don't have to do anything, but it is helpful for folks to be informed about our program. One of the differences, and I'll recap these at the end, but just as we're coming to it, the default for Southern California Edison customers is to be on an annual settlement cycle. So what does that mean? So simply put, instead of paying a bill for whether you have, if you owe money to Edison or to Clean Power Alliance because you used more than you generated in the month, with Edison, those credits and debits that happen each month just get summed up over the whole course of the year, and then you pay one bill at the end of the year. There's some small charges that you pay that they call non-bypassable charges, taxes and the like, that you pay each month. That's usually just a few dollars. But then you don't pay anything other than that until the end of the year. So for some folks, if you generate more than you used over the course of the year, that bill you get might be zero at the end of the year. Edison might send you a check at the end of the year. It just depends on your circumstances. But the other scenario that we hear from some folks on, particularly if they have a relatively smaller solar system, is they end up with a really significant bill. Like some people might have thousands of dollars of charges because they were accruing those over the year rather than paying them each month. So one of the differences, we do a monthly settlement. So that's an important difference that the people should understand, is you'll have a bill each month. Now, if you're a generator, then we carry those credits forward to the next month. And if you used more than you generated, then you have a bill. And the way it works is at the end of the year, if you used more, if you generated more than you used over the course of the year, then you'll also be eligible for a check if you've generated a certain amount. The other thing is there's certain scenarios where you may have had a bill early in the year and you may have earned credits later in the year. If that's the case, we'll write you a check at the end of the year to refund you for those payments that you made and the credits that you've accrued at the end of the year up to the amount you paid. So let me give a simple example of that, because that's probably a mouthful. So if you paid in the first 6 months of the year $600 to Clean Power Alliance because you were using more than you generated, and then in the second part of the year you generated $600 of credit by generating more than what you used, then we'll refund you the $600 you paid earlier in the year. Folks seem to be sort of nodding their heads, following with that. So it's a little different than Edison's program, where it's just all taken care of once at the end of the year. We have a little bit more back and forth because we're doing the monthly settlement. And that's frankly just a difference. It's a program design choice. We think it's a good option for a lot of folks, but want to make sure people are really understanding of that difference. All right, so I won't ask anyone to look at this really carefully, but if you're already a net metering customer, this kind of matrix will look familiar to you. Basically, it shows, this is similar to what it looks like on the Edison bill, but it shows how much you either were a net generator or a net consumer for each time period. Particularly new net metering customers are required to be on a time of use rate, which means that depending on the time of day and the time of year, the price for electricity will be higher or lower. And so if you're a recent net metering customer, you're required to be on one of these time differentiated rates. And so that means that the credits and the usage that you get are based on those time periods. And then at the last thing is, and this is similar to Southern California Edison's program, but we think it's a little bit better, is at the end of the year, if you've generated more electricity in total than what you used, then you're eligible for what is called net surplus compensation. So that means you generated more over the course of the year. And so Edison publishes a rate for that every month. And depending on what month your cash out is, you get paid on the most recently published rate if you're with Edison. What we do is we add 10% to that value, and that's our net surplus rate. So you're always 10% better off if you're a net generator with Clean Power Alliance compared to if you stayed with SCE. So that's some of the basic stuff. I'll highlight a couple of more things. So just 3 differences, and I covered 2 of them in particular already. So one is we offer the monthly settlement compared to the default of annual settlement for Southern California Edison. We have the higher net surplus rates, always 10% higher. And then the other thing we've done is normally net metering customers have an anniversary date where that annual settlement happens based on when they installed their system. And so that could be any month of the year. The way it works with Clean Power Alliance is starting in April of 2020, everyone will be trued up in April. So part of the reason for that, frankly, is that it's easier for us to administer if we have a big batch of people that are getting settled at one time instead of every month of the year. But we put everyone on that cycle. So in the first year, residential customers that switched over have the opportunity to net out their charges and debits over more like a 15-month period instead of the normal 12-month period. So that's one difference to note in the first year. But after that, what you'll see is that it'll just be on this normal 12-month cycle. You'll continue to have a true-up with Southern California Edison for the delivery portion of the bill. So I kind of alluded to this earlier in the presentation, but there's 2 parts of your bill. The last page now is going to be the energy charges, and that's with Clean Power Alliance. But you still are paying for the delivery portion, which is the wires and the poles and the transformers, and all of those costs that continue to be borne by all customers, whether or not they're with Edison or with Clean Power Alliance for their generation service. And so in net metering, you can offset both types of charges, but there's no net surplus compensation, and there's no excess credits or anything like that for the delivery portion of the bill. That's how it is with Southern California. When you're fully with Southern California Edison, that's how it is with us. So that part, the mechanics of the settlement for the delivery charges with Southern California Edison, those don't change when you join Clean Power Alliance. But it's worth noting that that would continue to be on the annual cycle, and that, depending on your month, might not be the same month as our April true-up. So that's a little bit of a difference. I'll come back to it. Yeah. So those are the 3 key differences. One other thing that people should understand, and I think if folks are already on net metering, they're probably aware of this, is that there's a transition that happens. So if your true-up happened to be in May, normally, what happens when you transition, and what already happened when you transitioned in February, is that Edison treats you kind of like you moved out of your house. Like they close out your account, and they true you up as of February. So folks who are on net metering would have got a bill that was a true-up for their last however many months of service. So that was something that might have been come as a surprise to some people for the transition, but that's what happened. You get trued up, and then February now becomes for your Edison charges the anniversary date. So you can actually change that if you want to have the two aligned. If you want to have an April true up with Edison and an April true up with Clean Power Alliance, you can just reach out to Edison. They have a form, and you can switch those to line up if that's something that concerns you. That's an option. But just want to highlight that there's this true up transition that happens for customers when they join Clean Power Alliance. If folks are adding net metering later, everything, you'll have an anniversary date with Edison based on when you install your system, and then you'll have the April true up date with Clean Power Alliance. So I understand this is a lot of information, and one of the things that happened in the rollout was we have 1 million customers. About 50,000 customers out of that are net metering customers. That's like a really big amount of net metering customers. And we did send out a letter originally in January, kind of communicating some of the nuances of the program. But we recognize that not everybody read the letter, not everybody was aware of Clean Power Alliance. So we worked with Southern California Edison to extend the period of time that folks had to opt out if they don't like the differences in our program, if they don't like any of it. And they still have until March 31st to opt out. And what happens is if you opt out or at least before March 31st, Southern California Edison will actually go back and reverse your true up, and it'll be like you never joined Clean Power Alliance. So that's still live. There's a few more days in March. People can still have that opportunity to opt out if they're unhappy with it, if they don't like the true up, if they don't like the monthly settlement, if they don't like our net surplus policy, any of those different aspects, you still have the option to opt out, and Edison will return you like nothing ever happened. So want to make sure everybody's really clear about that. If you're a net metering customer, in addition to the January letter I mentioned, we sent 2 follow-up letters. We sent one late in February, another one in March, really emphasizing that people still have choices and really talking about the idea that you can still opt out before March 31st without any consequence. So I'm going to cover a couple more things, and then I think we'll probably have a lot of questions. So I'll just touch on this really briefly, but we're a different business model than what Southern California Edison has. Like I mentioned, we're local in your community. We have your council member here. They're representing your voice in the community with Clean Power Alliance. And I'll just say Camarillo happens to have one of the most involved board members of all, Vice Mayor Tremblay. And so that means Camarillo really has a voice in the procurement choices that Clean Power Alliance is making, that the city's making, and the direction of things. So that's a pretty big difference in how we do business. And part of that means, we have a different regulatory structure. So we still have some regulation. Edison's fully regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. We have some things where we're regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. We have other aspects where, because we're a local government agency, we're governed by our board, and we don't have to necessarily do, what the regulators in San Francisco want us to do on every single choice. So being closer to the community, having that governance structure means a really big impact in how we do business. Another thing we like to talk about is community investment. So we're a not-for-profit, we're a government agency, and we're in the process of looking at, over time, one of the reasons that many communities joined is that they really wanted to see more investment in energy projects in their community. So that could be energy efficiency type programs, that could be more electric vehicles on the road, charging stations, it could be demand response programs. There's a lot of different options for that, and we're actually in the process now of putting together a plan where we're going to look at a number of different options for how we can do that community reinvestment, do those local programs to really have that impact close to home in the communities here. So that's something that's a priority for our board, that's a priority for us as staff, and we're working hard to make that a reality. Winding up here. So I'll talk about rates. I mentioned the rate ranges earlier on in the 3 products that we have. That's a commitment our board has made. to those discount percentages and the premium for the 100% green energy. And that takes a lot of work. It's a big part of what we do is making those right procurement choices so that we can get the green energy that people want to see and that we can offer the rates that people want to pay. So one of the things that if you pay close attention to your rates is that they've changed already a couple times this year. Edison implemented a rate change on January 1st. They implemented another rate change March 1st. They're implementing a rate change April 4th. They're implementing a rate change June 1st. So that's a lot of rate changes. And we have to keep up with that in order to maintain those commitments that we have. And we're really active in monitoring those proceedings. So let me highlight the next two, the April 4th and the June 1st rate changes for you, because those are coming right around the corner. So one of the things that happened that's going to cause folks' rates to increase on April 4th is Edison last year had $825 million of extra costs in the power markets that they hadn't charged people for. So they underestimated the cost of energy by almost $1 billion last year. And the Public Utilities Commission said that they were allowed to collect those rates from all customers, not just Edison's bundled customers, but also from Clean Power Alliance customers in 2019. So whether or not you stay with Edison return to Edison or stay with Clean Power Alliance, there's going to be a rate increase of a couple percent on April 4th. Fortuitously, some of Edison's other rate charges for delivery are going down in April, so that'll have some offsetting effect, but there will be a net rate increase of a couple percent starting April 4th for all customers. So that's an important thing. The other thing that's happening in June is that Edison has their overall rate change. And so that's for the cost of generation. It's also for something that is called, kind of colloquially called the exit fee. That's also known as the PCIA, the power cost indifference amount. And so Edison made purchases for energy, not knowing that Camarillo was going to leave its bundled service and start, to join Clean Power Alliance. And so it made 20, 30, sometimes year commitments for different energy products. And so we want to make sure, and it's state law actually, that by forming a CCA and joining Clean Power Alliance, it can increase the costs on the customers who stay behind. So that's the fee that's included. And an important thing to understand about our rates is that when we set our rates, we take into account that exit fee. And so when we say it's a 1% discount, it's a 1% discount after you pay the fee. So that's an all-in number. But there's a change to the fee that's happening, that's going in June at the same time as Edison's generation rates are changing. So in order to maintain that discount that I mentioned, we're going to be adjusting rates at the same time. So there's going to be a little bit of fluctuation in those rates if you're paying really close attention to the third and fourth decimal on your electric rates. But we'll be adjusting our rates at the same time as well to make sure that we're maintaining that commitment that we had for those discounts. All right, so this is kind of the summary. We offer competitive rates. That's a big part of what we're trying to do. I just talked about that. We're offering higher renewable content for every single one of our tiers, and we're offering local control of your power procurement, which is a big deal. And it's a big change from what you've had with Southern California Edison. So that's the value proposition. We hope you're excited about it. I'm going to take a bunch of questions, and I'm going to leave us on the last slide here, which is just our contact information. We have our call center there. We have our website that I mentioned. Also in the back, I see a lot of folks already found it, but we have some materials about a typical bill, a fact sheet on net metering, and just a little bit about who we are that you can take with you. And then my understanding is that if you didn't hear it enough from me already today, this is going to be online, and you'll be able to watch it on public television as well. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you listening to me, and happy to take any questions.
You mentioned the time of use schedule. I have solar, and I have a battery backup that sells the energy back in the high price periods. Is the time of use going to be the same as Edison has, or are they changing it, or whatever? I know it changes, from winter and summer. But You offer the different schedules, or what's, couldn't read your chart up there.
Sure. And yeah, and that was just an example. But so the question was, do we offer the same time of use rates or time of use schedules as Edison? And the answer is yes. So for residential customers, when Edison recently made the change that didn't affect most customers, to the extent that you're on a different time of use period, and you're a net metering customer, there's actually some grandfathering provisions. So the new peak period in the summer is 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. The old peak period is noon to 6. And so if you're on the noon to 6, then there's a certain amount of time, because you've had solar for a while, if you're on that, there's a certain amount of time where you'll remain on the old time of use periods. We offer the exact same grandfathering schedule that Edison offers. So when it comes to time of use, like the short answer to the question is there's no difference. We'll offer the same that Edison offers.
So I'm on time of use A schedule, which is from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Do you offer that?
Yes. Yes, there's a lot of different ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question was, you indicated that Southern California has some still charges for the delivery charges a portion, and CPA has got the energy for it. If we generate excess energy, even more than we're using, can it be applied to the delivery charges also at the end of the year?
Yeah, so the question was, if you have net surplus generation, can you apply the credit against your delivery charges? And the answer is no, you cannot. But that's also the way it is when you're with SCE. So there's actually no change. They don't allow you to kind of cross-pollinate between those two categories on your bill. But no, you can't apply those charges across.
One last question. My meter gets read on the 12th of the month, at least that's what I was told. And I used to get the bill about 7 days or so after the meter was read. I still have not received my March bill, and it's kind of almost 2 weeks now. Has there been a problem with the billing, or I'd like to see the bill, but it looks like in that before March 31st, so I can decide what I want to do.
So the question was, you didn't get your bill, and you normally get your bill by now, and where's my bill? I had a similar problem, and some other people we know had a similar problem, but not everyone's having that problem. So I think Edison is having some billing issues, and if you want help, I can get with you after, and we can see if there's a way, if you want to see that bill before the end of March, if Edison's hung up, if there's a way to get that for you. But,
On the web, I can't get at it there either.
right, we've heard that from some people, but it's not affecting everybody. Yeah.
For someone who's on care, that person would get the same care, SE care discount, base rate, if they chose 100% renewable green power. Is that what you're saying? That's the way I understand it?
So the question was, if you are on care and you choose the 100% green rate, if you'll pay the same as what you were paying before at Edison. And the answer to that is, if you're in one of the communities who chose as a default 100% green, which is not Camarillo, so like Ojai chose 100% green, just for an example, residents in Ojai on care will automatically be put into the 100% green product at the same price they were paying before. Right, I understand. Yeah, so if you're in a different city and you're on care and you chose 100% green, then you don't get the discounted rate. You would pay the premium rate. But you still get the Edison care discount on your delivery charges, which is where the care discount actually appears currently. So you don't lose your care discount. It's just that the way Edison makes the care discount happen is they take it out of your delivery charges. They reduce your delivery charges. So you'll still get the reduced delivery charges from care, but then on the generation portion, which is what Clean Power Alliance controls, then that would be a premium if you're on the 100% green compared to what it would have been if you were with SCE or if you were with one of our other rates. Does that answer the question?
So, for someone who's on care, if they chose the 100%, their bill would go up.
In Camarillo, yes. Their bill would go up if they opted up to 100%. If they do, to be clear though, if they do nothing in Camarillo, their bill will go down 1%. Right, they'd be in the lean power product. The least expensive, right?
So, I'm just curious. So, Clean Power Alliance, you get your purchase energy, right, from somewhere. So, renewable energy, so where do you actually purchase renewable energy from?
So the question is, where do we purchase renewable energy from? We purchase from a pretty diverse set of sources. And it varies a lot. There's a lot of folks that have renewable energy facilities that are either new or existing that are selling power, and some of those are right here in Southern California. Some of those are out in the desert, further Northern California, and then in some cases they're even out of state. One of the big priorities that we have in our as we grow is getting more new renewable energy facilities built onto the grid, because that's how we're really going to make a difference in the mix of renewable resources, not by just taking the existing resources, which is important to make sure someone's buying those existing energy from the existing renewable energy facilities, but getting more on the grid. So a couple things that I can point to on that we're really proud of in our first year. One is we actually signed a contract with the new construction wind energy project in Tehachapi, so really not too far from here, that actually started delivering electricity on January 1st of this year. So in our very first year of operation, we had a new wind farm delivering electricity to the grid that didn't exist before we were around, so that's a pretty exciting thing. The other thing we've done is we've actually put out a solicitation where we asked renewable energy developers to bring us proposals for new renewable energy facilities. And we got proposals from over 150 new renewable energy facilities. And we've gone through a process with our board of creating a short list, and now we've actually signed exclusivity agreements where people had to post money with us saying, we really want to sell you this electricity, and if we don't, we're going to lose a bunch of money. But the exciting thing is we're in the contract negotiation process now, and in the next several months we'll be bringing contracts to our board for approval. Now it's your local representatives making the decisions about which new renewable energy facilities are going to get built, and those are all within California. And I'll say, we've seen a mix of, in terms of what was offered, geothermal, wind energy, solar plus energy storage. And so, we have a short list now that's going to be, primarily solar and solar plus energy storage, and that's going to be new construction renewables on the grid.
Why is there a Clean Power Alliance? Is it because the state is dissatisfied with the pace of Southern California Edison in getting renewable energy?
So the question is, why is there a Clean Power Alliance, and is it because the state is dissatisfied with Edison's pace of adding renewable energy? So it's really a local government choice, and so the reason there's a Clean Power Alliance is because our local communities weren't happy with the pace that Edison is adding renewable energy to the grid, and wasn't happy with the responsiveness of Edison to the needs of local communities. And I'll just say, I worked at Edison for 9 years. I was in energy procurement there. I did a number of other roles. And so when I say that, it's not by way of criticizing Edison. Edison covers a territory of 50,000 square miles from Bakersfield to, the San Bernardino, Nevada border, down through Orange County, like really vast area. And so there's a lot of different values and there's a lot of different interests that people have. And so when Edison's making decisions, they're making decisions for all those people, and it kind of averages out to some kind of lowest common denominator. What we're able to do is we have cities that have made this commitment and that want to be a part of Clean Power Alliance and want to do more in green energy. And so that's the opportunity for creating Clean Power Alliance, and why so many cities joined is because they want to have that unique voice in moving more quickly towards renewable energy. Another question?
Your objective then is to try to create a demand, let's say, for the 100% green power would be optimum for you, so you can go out and find the generators. You say, I have a demand for this, and then you would look for the suppliers for that demand?
So the question is our objective to have more of a demand for 100% renewable energy so that we can go buy more renewable energy? So,
And we would get the
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would say the objective is to offer people choices is one of the big objectives, rather than necessarily pushing everyone towards one choice. Some of the communities decided right out of the gate, we want to be at 100% green energy. The state has a law that we're going to have 100% clean energy by 2035. And so we want to be there faster. I would say that's a goal of the organization. But given we're going to continue to offer these different offerings, and so we're not forcing anyone to do anything sooner if they don't want to do that. We're offering those choices, and it is true that as we have more demand for renewable energy, that does feed into how we procure energy, and we'll have more buying power for buying more.
Yes, I don't know if this question is for you or Mr. Tremblay, but in case of Camarillo, where the default is lean power, how do I tell them that I would like to see that demand for 100% green power? Do I switch? And I'm willing to pay, that 10% extra if that helps create the demand for that.
So the question is, how does a resident here communicate to their council, to the decision makers, Vice Mayor Tremblay here, that they want to be 100% green sooner, and that you said you're willing to pay?
So the way to do that is to go ahead and opt up right now if you wish to do that at 100%. The council last year made a decision as far as the default rate is concerned to engage in a default rate, as you saw on that slide, at 36% for a number of reasons. Although there were some folks who were advocating that the city choose a 100% default rate. There are others who were concerned from a conservative standpoint about what the fact is that CPA we've been in startup mode for this last year. There was some uncertainty going forward as far as rates were concerned, and the council thought it best in this year, particularly given fiscal constraints, that we go to the 36% default rate. But you can individually change at any time you wish. You can go to 50%. You can go to 100%, and the council can revisit that default tier each year. As to your other question, if you have questions on your bills or questions on technical issues, Matt is the person to see, and the contact information up on the board. I would encourage you to call the customer service number or go online and email them. If there are questions regarding the policies that the Clean Power Alliance is engaging in, or the board of directors is considering, for example, in renewable energy and so on, then those are the questions that I would appreciate, you being from Camarillo, you direct to me or to any council member, including Councilmember Mulchay, who is here. We need to hear from you as to what your opinions are on CPA's policies, because as the local representative on the Joint Powers Authority Board, we are responsible for setting those policies, and my contact information is on the city's website.
To add on to that, I think he was also kind of looking at what is the board of Camarillo perhaps intent on doing to perhaps promote more people. Obviously, if the goal is to promote 100% renewable to increase demand, will the board be evaluating data of all the folks that opted in or opted up? Will you be spending marketing dollars to educate the community to perhaps opt up? Is that a goal of the community to continue to try to opt up so that you guys can review at a set amount of time annually, I guess?
Two parts to that, but I think every year, it's fair to say that every year the council will review the data that has been generated in terms of what people have enrolled in relative to deciding what the default tier should be for that forthcoming year. Secondly, as to marketing, I mean the overall mission of Clean Power Alliance is a greater sustainability, as Matt has discussed, and local control and encouraging of renewable energy. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that other than to say, sure, there will be I don't know if marketing is the right term or not, but there will be encouragement and education, certainly, and that's part of Clean Power Alliance's mission. Did I cover your question? Okay.
Either one of you, if everybody went to 100% clean power right now, there wouldn't be enough supply for it. You don't have enough storage at night or anything on cloudy days. So it's kind of silly to think that you want to go to 100% right away, maybe by 2030 or whatever, but how are you trying to address that? I mean, mainly the storage is the problem for the short days in the winter and all that for your solar. What's happening there?
Yeah, so just to repeat the question really quickly, the question is, what if everybody chose 100% renewable energy? How can you do that today? There's not enough renewable energy at night sometimes. Like how does this all work? How does it fit together? So really good question, and it's a question we think about a lot, and it's a question that people ask a lot. So the good news is we enrolled almost 1 million customers last month, and not everybody chose the 100% renewable energy tier. So we won't have to deal with that this year. But theoretically, I think it's correct. There's not enough renewable energy existing to serve everybody with renewable energy yet. And that's why, when I got the question earlier, I mentioned that we've already gone out and we're soliciting developers to build new renewable energy, new steel in the ground, so that we can make renewable energy available to more people. You also asked about storage, and that's really important, and it's something I forgot to mention. But one of the other things we're really proud about in our renewable energy procurement is when we went out for renewables, I mentioned we did some solar with storage. So that's an important piece of it because you can shift the time of delivery onto the grid based on those batteries. It sounds like maybe you've done that at your home as well. The other thing that we did, which is, I think, different than what a lot of other folks in the market are doing, what other utilities are doing, is we've actually gone out and solicited standalone energy storage in that first solicitation. So we're not just looking for renewables, and we're not just looking for renewables paired with storage, but we see a value in having standalone storage. And so one of the exciting things about standalone storage is one of the things we hear from folks is they want to see more energy development, more investment in the communities. And when it comes to gigantic wind turbines, or when it comes to thousands of acres of solar panels, like that's probably not going to happen in Camarillo, like either one of those things, maybe on a very small scale. But what can happen is energy storage, because energy storage can go in a parking lot, it can go in a warehouse, and you won't even know it's there. So that's one of the things we looked at in the solicitation is local energy storage, and we're going to be continuing to go out for that because we see the value in integrating those renewables that we're buying onto the grid by having storage.
Are you looking at like lithium-ion storage batteries or capacitor-type storage?
The question is what kind of energy storage. Most of what we've seen is lithium-ion, but we're technology agnostic. We're looking for what's the best value to meet the needs that we have. Question over here. So the question is, should people still put solar on their homes, or is Clean Power Alliance cutting that industry out? And I would say they complement each other really well. We have I talked about some of the differences with our net metering program, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the compensation that folks get for generating extra renewable energy and putting it on the grid, we're encouraging that by offering a higher rate of compensation. So we see that as a part of the mix too. I think it's great that we've already got people pairing batteries with that storage, because what we've actually seen in the energy markets is we've got so many people who have gone and put solar on their rooftops that it's actually, in some hours of the day, particularly in the spring, particularly when it's sunny, particularly when it's not that hot, people aren't running their air conditioner, but there's all this solar energy, and there's actually more than the grid operators know what to do with. And so we want to see more. But that's one of the reasons why storage is important, and that's one of the reasons we're investing in that at the same time. There's a place for both.
Is your answer yes to her question? Should she go ahead and put solar on her roof?
It's totally so. I'll say, if the question is should someone, yeah, we got some people from solar industry here. So everyone needs to make their own choice. Like I won't tell anyone here if they should put solar on their house. I won't tell anyone whether or not they should opt out or if they should opt up to 100% renewable energy. I want to provide good information for everybody, and then you got to decide what's right for your home and for your family. Question in the back.
So I have a question on some of the baseline credits that we used to see. How does that get allocated to the generation or the delivery side on the bill? And also I guess it's every 6 months there's typically some kind of energy credit from Edison or state. How does that get allocated and what side of the bill is it going?
Yeah. So two questions. One was, what about baseline allocation credits that folks get on their bill? So that has to do with the tiered energy charges for, like, so if for the first increment of energy usage, you pay less than for your next increment of energy usage. That traditionally, so just to answer the first question, that part was traditionally on the delivery portion of the bill, not the generation part, but that's changing. And so it's going to be split between the two. And we'll offer the same baseline allocations for your region that you are used to seeing, or the comparable thing that Edison offers. We offer the same baseline allocation credits. And then the second part of the question was about?
It's about the rebates.
Yeah, so there's something called the California Climate Credit that you get twice a year. That happens on the delivery charges, and that's not impacted by your participation in Clean Power Alliance. So you'll still get that climate credit from the cap and trade program on your bill on the Edison half twice a year. Another question?
One last question. So on net metering, it sounds like at the end of the year we'll have a true up for the delivery side. So if you have an excess on delivery, you don't get a credit back, like a check or something like that. That's just a little bit.
Yeah, so the question is, if you have excess on the delivery side, when you have your true up with Edison, do you get a check for that? The answer is no. There's no, Edison won't give you a check for excess on the delivery side. But if you had excess, then you'll get paid out by Clean Power Alliance on the generation side. And that's how it worked before when you were with SCE. Question here?
It sounded like you wanted to say something else about opting in and out. Can we opt in and out at any time? Potentially going to be a charge opting in and out.
Great question. So there's, can you opt out in and out at any time? How does that work? So there's basically a 120-day period around enrollment where you can opt out, and there's no delay, no consequence, nothing happens. So that's from 60 days prior to enrollment, so back to December, and then 60 days after enrollment, which is basically, depending on when your billing cycle is, end of March, sometime into April. So during that period, you'll just be returned to service, and then like you'll pay, if you already were enrolled with us, you'll pay your bill for the first month with us, you'll opt out, you'll go back to Edison, that's it. Once you've gone back to Southern California Edison, there's a couple of things that happen. One is you're allowed to come back, but you have to wait a year before you can come back. And the other part of it is you have to give Edison 6 months notice before you leave. So you could opt out today, and you would have to wait until a year from today if you wanted to come back to Clean Power Alliance. Yeah, you have to give 6 months in advance. So you basically, you could theoretically, you could opt out today and say, I want to come back in a year, and then tell Edison, or actually you tell us, we'll do the paperwork for you, and we'll give Edison the 6 months notice, and so you can come back as soon as you can. But if you want to opt back in, you just reach out to us, and we take care of the paperwork with Edison. But there's the minimum 1 year stay, and then there's the 6 month notice requirement. The other thing is if you opt out after the 60-day post-enrollment period. So let's say you want to opt out in June. Then you have two options with Edison. One is you can give them 6 months notice, and then you just go back to Edison after 6 months on their normal rate. The other option is you can go back immediately, but they have a special, what they call a transitional service rate that you go on if you don't want to wait 6 months to go back. And those rates, instead of being the normal rates that everyone pays, they're based on the short-term price of power. and it's complicated, and I don't have a much better explanation of it than that. But those are kind of the two options you have if you want to leave. So you can leave at any time and you can go right away, or if you don't want to take the risk of what that transitional rate looks like, you can wait 6 months and go back onto that regular rate. Right. There's a question about the cost of opting out. So Edison, if you opt out after the 60-day period, they charge a small fee, which is basically, I think it's like 50 cents or $1. It's like on that order of cost. And it's basically the cost to mail you the letter confirming your return to Edison. They charge you for that. So there's that fee if you opt out. We don't charge any fees for opting out or returning. Yeah. Question over here.
Choose to opt out after March 31st, you will not be restored to your prior position with SCE. And Clean Power Alliance NEM policy and terms and conditions, including the differences explained above, will apply. So that sounds a little different than what you said, except maybe you're just factoring in the time period.
Yeah, so the question was, the letter that we sent to net metering customers says that after March 31st, you can't be returned to your previous status with SCE, which is a little different than what I said before, which that is a little different than what I said before, but let me give you the context for that. That's solely in the context of this opportunity you have to opt out by March 31st. And so what it means is if you're a net metering customer only and you opt out, let's say tonight, then SCE will go back to January and unwind all your charges. They'll reset your balances in your net metering account, and and then they'll rerun your billing for February and March like you had been with them all along. So if you opt out and you're just a regular customer that doesn't have net metering, we don't go back and undo all the previous billing. And Edison doesn't do that. There's not a good reason to, because you don't have credits and balances and things like that. But for net metering, it's a little bit more complicated. You might have a credit balance. You might have gotten a significant true-up bill. It depends on your individual circumstances. But if you opt out by March 31st, they'll undo all of that. That opportunity to have everything reversed back to January like nothing ever happened goes away after March 31st. So it's a one-time opportunity that got extended about 60 days. And that's what's applicable. The other conditions around opt-out are what would apply after that period. That would be the same for net metering, and that would be the same for non-net metering customers. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, other question I have solar pretty much the end of the year push, and let's just say I'm a net generator. So right now I'm on the option, the default options are 36%. So if there's going to be a surplusage at the end of the true-up, and it's 36% Clean Power Alliance and 64% SCE, in my simple mind, any surplus would be divided between them on the same percentages. So that means, I don't understand the statement in the letter where it says, however, any end credits received from Clean Power Alliance cannot be used to offset SCE charges, and any end credits received from SCE cannot be used to offset Clean Power Alliance charges. That statement to me suggests that there's something that potentially could be lost. I'm trying to figure out what it is that could be lost credibly.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of how to repeat the question back, but no, I understand. I can answer the question. I'm just trying to repeat it back for the microphone. But I think the gist of the question is, we're offering, you're in Camarillo, you have 36% renewable energy. That means you have the rest that's not renewable energy. But, does that mean that when you get the net surplus credit that Edison pays you for part and that Clean Power Alliance pays you for part? So the 36% renewable energy and the 64% non-renewable energy all comes from Clean Power Alliance. So 100% of the energy comes from us. It's just that what proportion of the energy that we deliver to you is the green energy, is the question there. So that's the difference when we talk about 36%. So we're going out for the other 64% and buying other sources of energy. And that's a mix of things. It could be from natural gas fire generation. A chunk of it is from hydroelectric resources. So that's what's happening. We're providing all of it. And so you don't have to worry about a split on the generation credits between SCE and Clean Power Lines because it all comes from us. Now, there was also a question about your, in notes in the letter that you can't apply your credits from the generation side from Clean Power Alliance on the delivery charges from Edison. And so that was a question that someone asked a little bit earlier. That's what that's referring to, what we were talking about, which is if you have excess credit on the generation side, you can't apply that against any amounts that you owe to Edison for the delivery charges.
I guess that's not quite a fulfilling statement in the sentence. That's not what it really suggests. It suggests that there might be credits for not the generation, but the actual electricity. Am I not getting 64% of my electricity from SCE?
No, you're getting it all from us. You're getting 100% of your energy from Clean Power Alliance?
You said delivery, and it's not.
Fair.
It's fine. It's just electrons going to home. It has nothing to do with the ratio of clean to.
You just look at the whole customer base and you buy the 100%, 50, and that's a joy, but we may be getting 50% clean power to our home. It's not a real individual
right.
thing. You're just looking at the whole picture of who you're delivering to, right?
They're not delivering.
Yeah, so we're procuring 100% of your energy. It is delivered over Edison's lines. So when we say 36% renewable in the lean tier in Camarillo, we buy all your energy. All of it comes from us. We charge you for all of it. Some of it is renewable, 36% in this case. Some of it is just other sources of energy. But it's all coming from us, and so there's no consideration in that context on the generation charges of a split between SCE and Clean Power Lines because you get it all from us. You get the generation credit from us. There is so separate from that. So think of it as two completely separate things. You have the actual electricity, that's the electrons flowing through the wires. That is what we provide to you, and we deliver 100% of your needs for that, and then you pay us for that. Separately, Edison has to maintain the grid. So there's poles and wires and transformers and people that fix poles and wires and transformers. All of that is covered in your delivery charges. And so that portion is also part of your net metering program. But the way it works under Edison's program, and that whether or not you're a Clean Power Alliance customer, is you can only offset those charges on the delivery side 1-for-1. So you can't earn any excess on that portion of the bill. But the kind of the mathematical reality of it is you're producing the same and using the same amount of electricity. We read the same meter as Edison reads. So if you have more generation than what you used, then you're going to essentially get close to zeroing out those delivery charges with Edison. But then we're going to pay you the compensation for the excess generation. Does that help?
Yeah, that does.
Okay.
The only SCE credit then would be against delivery.
Correct.
You're not going to get any, you're not going to split those electrons into 64%, 3%.
Yeah, we're responsible for all your electrons. Yeah. Question over here?
Which communities have opted into 100% renewable?
We have 10. So out of 31 that are now receiving service from us, 10. So Karen might help me, but we already mentioned Ojai. Oh, sorry. Which cities and how many cities have 100%, have chosen the 100% green default? So there's 10 out of the 31 so far. And so we've got in Ventura County, I think.
We've got Ojai, Ventura, the city, Oxnard, Thousand Oaks, and unincorporated Ventura County.
And then in LA County, we have Santa Monica, West Hollywood, Culver City. Is that right? Yeah. So, let's see. It's all on the website. I'm sorry. We have a lot. Thanks. We don't have it as a heat map on the website, but we have it as a list on the website. So I apologize if anyone's watching this. I apologize to the 100% cities we left behind. We promise we're still buying them the green energy. It just there's a lot of cities we represent. In the back.
Years ago, it did something like this in Northern California. Are you ready to get similar to that? And be subject to brownouts and stuff?
So the question was, years ago, there was something like this in Northern California. Are we anything like it, and were we going to be subject to brownouts? So a couple things. Yes, the community choice is something that started up in Northern California. The first community choice agency was Marin Clean Energy, just north of. So the question is, was that associated with Enron as well? So great question. The bill that enabled community choice was passed in 2007. So the California energy crisis was in 2000 to 2002 timeframe, and actually community choice was something that grew out of the energy crisis after the brownouts and after all the problems and all, PG&E went bankrupt the first time back then as a result of that. So what the idea was that instead of having these big government or these big monopoly utilities running power, there could be an opportunity for communities who wanted to do things differently to buy their own power. And so that was that was the genesis of creating community choice and enabling that in 2007. And like I said, it's actually a reaction to the energy crisis and something that came into existence afterward rather than something that's related or a cause of it. But I think it's worth mentioning about a question about reliability, because it's a question we get a lot. And that's something really important. Like all the green energy isn't going to make people very happy if all of a sudden they go from really reliable electricity to like rolling brownouts. That's not what we want. That's not what anybody wants. So there's a few different things. There's an independent grid operator in California that's charged with reliability of the system. And we participate in their market on a daily basis, and they make sure that there's exactly the same amount of energy generated in any single moment as the amount that people want to use. So that's why every single time you flip the switch on, or almost every single time, the lights come on. There's another program that we participate in that we're required to be part of, which is called the Resource Adequacy Program. And so that's a solely reliability program. And what that means is each entity in the state who serves retail customers needs to buy capacity for each month of the year, and they have to buy it in advance and show that they have that capacity available to be able to meet 115% of the peak need of the system. And so that's something we do every single month, and we do a year ahead showing for that. But we're signing up contracts with capacity so that our independent system operator has the tools that they need when it's a really hot day or really cold day to be able to provide the exact right amount of electricity. So that's something we take really seriously, and we're part of that market, and that's how we do business. Other questions?
What's the timeline for your local development projects?
So the question is, what's the timeline for the local development projects? So we're going to be launching a 6-month effort. We're going to be bringing it to our board for consideration at our April 4th board meeting. And what we'll be doing as a part of that process is first a stakeholder engagement piece where we're going to be soliciting input from our communities, from our board, from other organizations in the community about what should be the priorities and goals for our local programs. We're also going to be developing a tool to evaluate kind of the pros and cons of those different things, provide weights for the different attributes of a program, and consider a bunch of different options. And then at the end of that, there'll probably be a list of several programs that should be a priority. So that time frame for that coming out is probably around September. And then what we'll be doing is as we go into 2020, we're going to frankly be looking at dollars and cents. And we're going to say, how much money do we have free to invest in these local programs? And that's going to be another big decision that our board's going to have to make, is not only what do we invest in, but how much do we have free to invest, and how quickly do we want to do that? So that's a process that's going to be pretty rigorous and kicking off soon, and we're excited to see the results.
Yeah, and join, and then you've got the NEM community much more, I feel like, bought in because we can point to this goal that in 2023 we're going to start to take 1% of the revenues towards these community projects or something that's a little more concrete.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. That just about, having concrete goals out there, timelines, and getting really good input from the community. That's something that's important to us, and I'll definitely take that back.
And it's going to take a while because the CPA has to go its reserves. So I forget what the board selected, the 35 or 50% reserve. But that, we're talking close to $400 million. So it's going to take a while to reach that level and then move on to local projects.
Yeah, so if everyone didn't get the whole comment, the comment was just that we're going to be building up reserves, and that's going to play a factor into our local program development. And I know one of the things our board is going to be considering really carefully is the balance between how quickly did we build up our reserves, which is something that's necessary to make sure that we can keep rates stable so that we can have credit support with the people who sell us power, and that we're able to be a sustainable organization financially, balancing that with the real need and desire to be investing in the communities. So I think it's likely, but it's not my decision, but I think it's likely that we'll see some investment in local programs before we reach our full reserve target. But I think once we reach the target in terms of financial reserves on hand, we would probably be seeing more of that local investment. So it's probably a little bit of both.
California, we have at-risk communities, right? We don't really have a lot of time to build up sort of a broad swath of reserves for 1.5 million customers, whatnot. There might be certain communities that are more at risk than others. I don't want to call out any, but in terms of emergency evacuation stations, fire, where are we evacuating towards, making sure that there's a plan in place first for emergency disasters and whatnot. So I think that's an important thing to, again, be transparent about where the priorities are, because that's what a lot of the communities are wanting to see in certain areas. And then I would just add, just since I have the microphone.
You want to take the microphone?
Actually, I probably don't need it, but the lady asked about should she go solar, and you framed it as, well, they're very complementary towards each other, the CPA and the solar industries or efforts. And I would encourage us to be more towards, instead of complementary, advocating towards each other, because we've got customers calling us all the time. Should I opt out of CPA? And what would you like our answer to be? Because if I gave your answer, I'd say, I don't know, no comment. And I don't know if that's the right position for us to be in.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, great comment. I would answer a little differently, which is I want people to make informed choices. And so our program is different, and I think it's different in good ways, but that's my judgment, and that's the judgment of the people who wrote the policy and our board. But it might not be the right answer for everybody. And so what I would, if I were you and I was getting the question, or when I get the question, I like people to have as much information as possible. And, that's why I came here, and why Karen came here tonight, and, your council members. We want people to have the information to make an informed choice. I think when people consider the totality, so it's not just our net metering program that I think people should be thinking about. We have a value proposition separate and apart from net metering. And so some people, have been frustrated. Like, I've talked to folks that, they got a true-up bill that they weren't expecting. But, folks will pay that bill, and then what do they get after that? You're going to have a net metering program that's more generous for net generators. You're going to have an opportunity to have cleaner energy for the energy that you take from the grid. You're going to have local control over how your power is sourced, over how the revenues are invested in the community. I mean, we think we have a really amazing value proposition for folks that goes beyond just, a nickel here or a nickel there with net metering. And that's not to dismiss anybody's concerns. But I will say, I think if people do their research and make an informed decision, I think more likely than not, they will stay with us. Our overall opt-out rate across our whole territory is a little over 3%, which means more than 96% of the people are choosing to stay with Clean Power Alliance. It's a little bit higher in Camarillo. It's more like 6%, but still I would say modest and less than what we planned for. So I just want people to make informed choices, and I think frankly, I think it's not credible for me to say that I know the right answer for everybody, because we've got a diverse crowd here tonight, and we have a really diverse set of stakeholders and residents and businesses that we serve. But you as a person out in the community are free to advocate how you see fit, and if you want to be an advocate for us, I think that would be really fantastic.
How about just local rooftop solar is a great opportunity, something like that.
I think that's right. There you go.
I can't resist. I'll have to add on to that. And we've had this conversation. Clean Power Alliance, it's written into our Joint Powers Authority that we support local distributed generation, and rooftop solar is one form of local distributed generation. So we are definitely an advocate for that. Whether it makes sense for any individual, you have to look at the economics, talk to folks in the solar industry, have them come out and figure out what it would cost and what the benefits would be, and then make an informed decision, as Matt says. Now that I have the mic, two other comments I want to make. One is that we neglected to introduce Steve Nash here. We have a community advisory committee with representatives from all over our service territory. 5 of the members of that committee are here in Ventura County. Steve Nash is one of those, lives in Oxnard, has been a tireless advocate and educator about Clean Power Alliance. He's been coming to these forums around the county.
Don't spread misinformation on next time.
If you spread misinformation on social media, Steve is one of the best people at patiently responding and getting good information out there. And the Community Advisory Committee, along with our board, will be a very important part of the process of developing our strategic plan for local programs and ensuring that we get transparency and good community engagement on that. And I know Steve is always happy to talk with folks and to hear your input. And the Community Advisory Committee meetings, along with all of our board and other committee meetings, are all open to the public. They're posted on our website. I think soon the advisory committee will have remote sites to participate as well. The last thing, while I have the mic, is I do want to give a shout out to our 100% green cities in Los Angeles, because I have the list.
I was hoping you would.
So they are Santa Monica, Culver City, West Hollywood, Rolling Hills Estates, and South Pasadena.
I remember now.
One of the other members of the Community Advisory Committee is from Camarillo. It's Angus Simmons, and Angus I don't think could be with us this evening, but I just want to be sure that you knew that he was on our advisory committee. We appreciate all the time that Steve and Angus and others spend, and they are a good go-to in terms of the policy questions, in addition to the council members.
And they are 2 of our most active community
Great. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate the additions there. Another question?
I appreciate very much your repeating the question. You do a very good job of it. Excellent in answering everybody's questions.
Well, thank you, and I'm not going to repeat. She said thank you. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions this evening? Yes, sir.
Will there be any option of an annual billing throughout Clean Power Finance in the future?
Yeah, so the question was, will there be an option for annual billing at Clean Power Alliance? And that is, I'll say, that's something we're considering. There are a number of different considerations for that for us operationally, and having annual billing and monthly billing coexist. And if you want, I can talk to you a little bit more afterward about it. But it is definitely something that we're evaluating, but we haven't been able to figure it out yet, and I can't commit one way or another. There's a question here.
Are the delivery charges from Southern California Edison regulated?
Are the delivery charges from Southern California Edison regulated? And the answer is yes, they are very much regulated. All of those charges have to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission. Each tariff rate has to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission, so that, yeah, they have a lot of regulation, and they are approved. Any other questions? Well, I think I might have exhausted everybody. Thank you very much for having me. It was a really good crowd, really great questions. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and hopefully you'll have me back. Thank you.
I hope you'll join me in a round of applause. I think both, and our thanks to both Matt and to Karen for being here this evening. You may take a few questions as folks are leaving. They'll be here for a couple of minutes. I also want to thank everybody for attending tonight. We appreciate it. We also appreciate those folks who are watching at home this evening, or maybe watching on as we live stream this. And I also, in addition, wanted to say two more things. One is thank you for being patient during this startup mode. This is an extraordinarily challenging job to do, and it is also a really good thing that is happening. But I want you to know that Matt and Karen and others at Clean Power Alliance have worked extraordinarily hard at this project, so we really appreciate all of their efforts. And then secondly, we would really appreciate if you have any comments, again, on where CPA is going in terms of its policymaking, in terms of where it's going incrementally over time, in terms of sustainability and renewable resources, and encouraging those on the local level. Please, please don't hesitate to contact your city council members, your community advisory council members, and let us know that, because it's very important we hear from you. Conversely, if you have questions on your bills or technical questions, the folks to call, the information is on the screen, and of course Matt and Karen will be here for a few more moments. And with that, I think we'll wrap up and say thank you and good night.
Thank you.